Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Weekly for Saturday, February the 19th, 2022. It is part 5, the penultimate episode of our Vegas 101 series. Today we're going to be talking about eating and drinking in Las Vegas. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping notes, as we like to call it. Number 1, our monthly live stream will indeed be this coming Wednesday, the 23rd at 6 p.m. Las Vegas time. It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast, 8 in the Central, 7 in the mountains. Not really very many people live there, though. In any case, hope you'll join us for that. We will have a special guest on the show, actually a couple of guests on the show. We'll be talking about their Las Vegas channel, and so you'll definitely want to tune in for that, get to know those folks. I think we'll have a thumbnail up here in the next day or so. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell, and you'll find out anytime we go live or schedule anything of the sort. And we are less than a month away from our trip to Las Vegas, and should be a number of live streams from Las Vegas, as well as some fun video that we'll be sharing with you over the months to come. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. I think in our opening show in the Vegas 101 series, we talked about some of the myths surrounding Las Vegas, and several of them were centered around food. For I would say most of its existence, Las Vegas was known as a place for cheap food and free drinks, and that just isn't really so much the case anymore. The $4.99 buffet has gone the way of the dodo. And casinos are making it more and more difficult in most cases to get those highly desired free drinks. So let's go ahead and start by talking about drinks. Obviously, the least expensive drink you could possibly get in Las Vegas is one of those free or complimentary cocktails in the casino. If you're gambling at one of the tables, or you're playing one of the machines and a waitress comes along and asks if you'd like a drink, you can presume that it's going to be comped. Now, the young lady, and 99.9% of the time it will be a young lady, the Rio experimented with male cocktail waitresses. I don't know if they still have them. They did a few years ago. But again, most of the time it will be a young lady. If you at least give her $1 or $2 or $5. It depends on what you order, and it depends on how many drinks you're ordering. If you're ordering a round for a number of people sitting together, do the math accordingly. If you went to the bar and actually purchased these drinks without the gambling piece of it, some of them would run you ungodly amounts of money. So be generous. It's going to be a lot less expensive than simply paying for the drinks outright. If you are sitting at a casino bar, that's typically been one of the easiest ways to get cocktails. And when I say cocktails, I mean, sort of your standard well drinks or domestic beer. That's what you can expect in most cases to be comped. If you're playing in a high limit room, well, I don't know why you're watching this, but if you're betting thousands of dollars a hand, it's a fair statement that the waitress is going to bring you pretty much whatever you ask for. But otherwise, keep that choice fairly limited. If you step outside what's acceptable, they'll let you know. But it's become more and more difficult to play the old game of the second, you might call it, $20 trick in Las Vegas. And that was to approach a casino bar, kind of sit down, put in your Players Club card, hopefully, slide a 20 into the machine, pull up some kind of video poker game, and go about the charade, at least, of playing every once in a while, preferably when the bartender approaches. The bartender will then ask you if you'd like anything to drink. You select something off the menu, they bring it to you, and they just hand it to you. They don't give you a bill. They will typically put down a little glass, and they will stick a ticket inside the glass, which says that they rang up a certain amount and that it was comped. This is also a place where you can put your tip, again, at least $1 or $2, depending on what you're ordering. And you can still do this at some bars and play very minimally and continue to get drinks, and the bartenders really don't care, particularly if you're tipping. A number of places have become much more careful about giving away drinks because, of course, people do take advantage of it. Like all of the Caesars properties on the Strip have a little system where it keeps track of how much you're playing and how long. And there's a system of lights, and when the little green light comes on, the bartender knows that he or she can serve you again. Otherwise, it's not comped. The Cosmopolitan has a system of tickets. The machine will every once in a while spit out a drink ticket, which you can then give to the bartender. And I'm sure there are a number of other casinos that have similar setups, but needless to say, it's not quite as easy to sort of scam the bartenders, you know. And in other cases, they may not have a specific technology like that, but they'll say very clearly, hey, you need to be, have at least $20 in the machine, be betting at least $1 a hand in order to be served. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, don't assume that drinks in the casino are going to be inexpensive. I've seen, I don't know how many, typically younger people approach a casino bar, I suspect thinking that they're going to get something for free or very inexpensive, order a couple of Bud Lights and end up with like a tab of $27. Sometimes the prices at the bar downstairs aren't much worse than the ones for the mini bar in your room, and that's saying quite a bit. Certain bars will have promotions from time to time. They're going to be visible somewhere within the casino. There'll be signage to that effect. There are places that have consistently cheap drinks. Casino Royale on the Strip, a small casino there, has like a number of beers that are $3 anytime. And of course, you can go to the infamous Stage Door just a couple of blocks off the Strip and get $1 Budweisers until you can't drink any more of them. Another option if you're just looking for something cheap is to hit up with a CVS or Walgreens. They'll have typically those sort of tall boy beers and even some other, like wine cooler type stuff for, $4 or so. So it's a good way to grab something to drink for a little while walking up and down the Strip. And it could turn out to be a lot cheaper than that free drink. I know I've had a lot of $21 free drinks and probably a few $101 free drinks most gamblers have. But there's a whole different side of Las Vegas when it comes to drinking in recent years. Just as there has been an explosion of gourmet and upscale restaurants, I've also seen a lot of craft breweries, a number of sort of mixology bars with a lot of very creative cocktails. Hey, definitely take advantage of it. It's really cool to try out some of these drinks, but expect to pay in the neighborhood of $20 and up for some of these concoctions, so sip them slowly. Finally, if you choose to go out to one of the popular nightclubs, I can't give you any advice, unless you're an attractive young woman, and then you can probably find a way to drink for free, but otherwise drinks and bottle service is quite ridiculous. So let's talk food. And there are still Las Vegas buffets. There are even still some reasonably priced ones. I can think of the South Point, which is a casino a few miles south of the main Strip area, but still on Las Vegas Boulevard. Downtown, you have the Main Street Station Casino. They have a pretty reasonably priced buffet. But the remaining Strip buffets are all pretty expensive to insanely expensive. So if you simply must try a Las Vegas buffet, and you can't make it to one of the two that I mentioned there, you have a few options on the Strip still. Luxor, Excalibur, MGM Grand, Bellagio, all those are MGM properties. So if you have any comps there, you could use those. Of those, Bellagio is probably the best or the nicest. Although surprisingly enough, Excalibur's gotten some fairly good reviews of late. Even here at the lower end properties, you're going to expect to pay anywhere from $20 to $30 just for breakfast or brunch. So keep that in mind. And if you really want to hit the high notes, no, not Circus Circus, though that buffet is open too, but there's a trio of sort of super premium buffets that you may want to check out, or maybe check out at least one of them. The Wicked Spoon Buffet at the Cosmopolitan is highly regarded. The Wynn Buffet, also very good. Probably the cream of the crop, though, is the only Caesars buffet, and that's the one at Caesar's Palace, simply called Bacchanal. And for dinner, it'll be in the neighborhood of $80-some. You'll have to make reservations. Is that possibly worth it? Well, you know, yeah, it probably is. If you take advantage of some of the unique food choices on the menu, sit back, relax. It's probably not worth it if you're going to load up on pizza and mashed potatoes. Then maybe just go to Excalibur. As with the cheap buffet, the cheap food deal has almost disappeared from Las Vegas. Again, at some of the outlying locals type casinos, you can still find deals, particularly overnight. And classically, a lot of Las Vegas food specials were what were called graveyard specials. They might start anywhere from 10 p.m. to midnight and run until 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning. Back in the day, you could get steak and eggs for like $4 or $5. And that was pretty common at a lot of casinos. There's nothing like that anymore on the Strip. Again, the South Point might be an exception there. Once in a while, you'll find some good deals downtown. If you don't mind stepping, half a mile or so off the Strip, Ellis Island has a number of sort of classic food specials in their particular coffee shop. And the coffee shop itself, which was kind of a Las Vegas tradition, place where you could get, spaghetti or pancakes anytime, day or night, that too is kind of disappearing. There just aren't that many of those kinds of places left. And those were also where a lot of those graveyard specials originated. So there are some deals out there if you're willing to do a little legwork and do a little traveling. The other sort of classic Vegas tradition is the steakhouse, and still most every Las Vegas resort worth its salt will have a steakhouse. But again, it's a pretty pricey food option. There are some very good ones. If you're staying in a nice hotel and they have a steakhouse, the odds are that it's going to be high quality, but you will pay for it. Las Vegas has become inundated over the past generation or so with celebrity chefs, some of the earliest ones being people like Wolfgang Puck and Emeril. Most recently, we've seen a tremendous number of restaurants from Gordon Ramsay, who I think has yet another one in the can, Bobby Flay, Giada, people like that. If they've been on the Food Network, there's a chance that they have a restaurant somewhere in Las Vegas that they're affiliated with. So if you have a particular chef that you really like, maybe you want to check out their restaurant. Keep in mind, they're probably not there cooking the food. On the other hand, there are some very high-end properties. I think of places like Robuchon. There's a restaurant at Caesar's Palace called Guy Savoy. These are the places where you might actually want to dress up. Most Las Vegas restaurants are business casual at best, so you needn't worry too much about that. Nowadays, though, you definitely want to have reservations. In the wake of the pandemic, a lot of restaurants reduced their seating capacity. In the wake of staffing shortages, many of those reductions have remained. So the days of just wandering into a property and getting into a restaurant, particularly a highly desirable one, are likely gone. So keep that in mind. If there's a place you absolutely need to eat, make reservations as far in advance as you can. One trick to try to save a little money, even if you're eating at some of these upscale restaurants, is to try the lunch menu versus dinner. Typically, it will be less expensive. It may not be quite the same assortment of foods, but very similar. You'll certainly get a taste of what that particular chef's vision is. It's also a lot easier typically to get reservations, or in some cases just to walk in and sit at the bar. If you're a solo traveler, sitting at the bar is a way to check out some of these really nice spots without feeling like the spotlight is shining on you sometimes if you're eating alone. Another way to check out some of these spots is to see if they have a happy hour, which will typically be sometime mid to late afternoon into early evening. They'll typically have some small plates or appetizers and a reasonable price, also some drinks to go with it. And you may get out of there with a nice variety of foods at a reasonable price. And of course, Las Vegas has its share of the chain restaurants you'll find pretty much anywhere else in the United States, including a Starbucks around pretty much every corner. So if you simply must have your coffee fix in the morning, you'll have no problem satisfying that when you're in Las Vegas. And of course, there's a Denny's and a White Castle, McDonald's, and even an Olive Garden on the Strip. But why eat someplace in Las Vegas that you can eat when you're back home? Another option is to check out the Miracle Mile shops. There's 3 or 4 restaurants there that tend to offer some really good breakfast and lunch specials in the neighborhood of $5 to $10. Really hard to beat that. Of course, those prices and availability changes, but just wander through those Miracle Mile shops and you'll see a number of opportunities there. And at least you're eating in Las Vegas. For kids, maybe outside the buffet, which is no longer very inexpensive, you may want to check out the food court in your particular hotel, because almost all of them have one. And they'll have the mix of common chain restaurants and some things maybe you don't normally see. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our special on food and beverage in Las Vegas. Hope it's been helpful to you. Hope this entire series has been helpful to you. Next week, we'll be back with the final installment, at least for now, of Vegas 101. Talk about things to do in Las Vegas, entertainment, that sort of thing. So you won't want to miss that. Again, keep in mind, our live stream is this Wednesday with special guests. So you want to tune in for that as well. I hope that if you've enjoyed our program today, that you'll consider liking it, make a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We'll be back here again, as always, on next Saturday with another episode of Vegas Weekly. Until then, I hope that you have a great, lucky, and healthy week. We'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.